Hey everyone, today we're going to pull back the curtain and see how you can figure out what's really going on inside a company. We're talking about financial ratios, and trust me, they're way less complicated than they sound. Let's jump in.
So just think about any big company you follow. How can you tell if it's actually thriving or just barely surviving? Is it really all about how much stuff they sell, or is there something deeper going on beneath the surface?
Well, the answer is, it's a lot like a health checkup for a person. I mean, you wouldn't say someone's healthy just because they're tall, right? Of course not. You got to check their vital signs. And for a business, it's the exact same idea.
When you crack open a company's financial report, it can feel like you're getting hit with a wall of numbers. But here's the secret. The real story isn't in any one of those numbers. Nope. It's in how they relate to each other. That's where we find the clues.
And this is the main tool we're going to use for our checkup, financial ratio analysis. Seriously, think of it like a doctor's stethoscope or a blood pressure cuff, but for a business. It lets us listen in, interpret all that data, and really understand what's going on.
So, just like a doctor checks your heart rate, your temperature, and a few other things to get the full picture, our financial checkup focuses on 4 key areas. These are pretty much the 4 vital signs of a company's health.
And here they are. First up, profitability, the big one, right? Is the company actually making any money? Then we've got liquidity. Can it pay its bills this month without breaking a sweat? Third is efficiency. Is it using its resources smartly, or is it being wasteful? And finally, leverage. How much is it leaning on borrowed money to keep the lights on? Let's dig into each one.
Okay, so now we know the 4 vital signs we're on the lookout for. Let's get into the specific tests, the actual ratios that we use to measure each one.
First up, profitability. This is kind of the whole point. At the end of the day, a business is supposed to make a profit. These ratios tell us point blank if a company is succeeding at its most fundamental goal. So to measure this, we look at a few key things. Take the net profit margin, for example. It tells us what percentage of every dollar in sales is left over after all the bills are paid. Is it 5 cents? Is it 20 cents? Big difference. Or there's return on assets, which shows how good the company is at using everything it owns, like its factories and cash, to actually make a profit. Each one gives us a different piece of the puzzle. Next, we check liquidity. This is all about the here and now. Does the company have enough cash or things it can sell for cash really fast to pay its rent, its employees, and its suppliers this month? It's a huge indicator of financial stability. And to check this, we often use something called the current ratio. It's a simple test, but it's super powerful. You just take all the company's short-term assets, like its cash and inventory, and you divide that by its short-term debts. If the answer is 2, that means they have $2 in assets for every $1 they owe soon. That's a nice, healthy cushion. But if it's less than 1, that could be a red flag.
Our third vital sign is efficiency. Look, a company can have the greatest product on earth, but if it's wasting resources left and right, it's not going to be healthy for long. This measures how well a company's actually using what it has, its inventory, its equipment, to ring up sales.
So a couple of key tests here are inventory turnover and asset turnover. Inventory turnover, for instance, tells us how many times a company sells through its entire stock of goods in a year. A high number? That means products are just flying off the shelves. A low number suggests stuff is just sitting around in a warehouse, tying up a ton of cash. These ratios give you a fantastic window into how well the business is running day to day.
And our final vital sign, leverage. This is all about risk. I mean, pretty much every company uses some debt to grow, but the big question is, how much is too much? Leverage ratios tell us how much of the company is funded by borrowing money versus how much is funded by the owners themselves.
The classic test here is the debt-to-equity ratio. It's exactly what it sounds like. It compares the company's total debt to the total amount that its owners have invested. So if the ratio is 1, it means debt and equity are perfectly balanced. But if it's 3, that means the company is running on 3 times more debt than its owner's money. That's not automatically a bad thing, but it for sure signals a higher level of financial risk.
Okay, that was a lot of theory. So let's see how this all works in the real world. We're going to take a quick look at a global giant, Unilever, and see how they use these exact same tools for their own health checkup every year.
And this just shows you how practical this all is. For a company like Unilever, liquidity ratios aren't just numbers on a page. They make sure there's enough cash to run their massive day-to-day operations. Efficiency ratios aren't some abstract concept. They use them to see how well things are running across their entire global empire. And profitability ratios, they directly measure whether their huge, sustainable business strategy is actually working.
Now we've come to what might be the most important lesson of all. We've gone through all these different tests, but think about it. A doctor never makes a diagnosis based on just one single test result, and neither should we.
And this is the key takeaway. A single ratio is just one data point. It's a snapshot. The real story, the full diagnosis, that only comes when you add context. How does this number stack up against competitors in the same industry? And maybe even more important, is this number getting better or worse for the company over time? That's when all this data turns into real insight.
So, the next time you hear about a company's massive sales or record profits, you'll know there's way more to the story. You actually have the tools now to do your own little checkup. So I'll just leave you with this question. What vital signs would you want to check on your favorite company?